Have you ever agreed to something at work that you actually didn't want to do? Maybe you said yes to extra work when your plate was already full. Maybe you stayed late again because every single other person was staying. And maybe you just nodded along in a meeting when you had a completely different perspective in the first place. And then afterwards, you're like, why did I say yes again? If you are thoughtful, quiet, but really high performing, there is a good chance that this has happened to you. And it's not because you lack any confidence to say no. There's actually many psychological reasons behind why saying no is so tough, and a few tips and tricks for you to say no a little bit easier. So a lot of people tend to think that people pleasing is just being really nice to another person. But actually, it begins way before that interaction. Many of us were actually taught that being agreeable was something to be rewarded. So we were praised for being helpful and easygoing and cooperative. And then over time, that then created a belief that being liked depended on being accommodating. And then that belief followed us into the workplace. So then what does it look like in the workplace? You might find yourself agreeing to things that you do not have capacity for. You might hesitate to raise a different perspective in different meetings. And you might apologize frequently, even when you have done nothing wrong. There's also a biological reason for this type of pattern. Our brains are actually wired to treat rejection like if it's a threat. So when we sense that something might disapprove of us or exclude us, then the brain's fear center is going to get activated. And then in that exact moment, agreeing or appeasing someone can actually be the safest option to your brain. So your instinct isn't anything irrational. It's just your nervous system trying to help you out. But as you probably already know, this type of strategy is going to cost you in the long term. So when you constantly prioritize other people's expectations, something begins to happen. Your energy can get really depleted. Your own priorities just get pushed aside. You don't have time for yourself, and your voice becomes quieter in the room because you've just learned to say yes. And so many quiet professionals end up doing really, really good work, but they stay invisible. They say yes to everything. They're reliable, they're supportive, and they're so easy to work with. You are the right hand person for your boss. But with that responsibility comes a lot of exhaustion. And eventually, resentment is going to start to build. But the more important issue that compounds over time is your leadership presence. So when you become the yes person, the person who becomes really good at executing, that doesn't make you promotable, or maybe promotable up to a certain level where execution is truly valued. And then beyond a manager or senior manager level, then other qualities and aspects of your work is going to make you get noticed. So that includes your presence, your ability to influence, your ability to be strategic. And when you're stuck as a yes person, and when you continue to people please, that's not going to get you the recognition that you need to be visible as a leader. So for many of us who are more quiet in nature, this is the real shift that you have to make. It's to protect your reputation, and it's to make sure that you're being positioned for the growth and advancement that you truly deserve. What is a boundary anyway? So the word boundaries can be harsh to a lot of people because it sounds like you're just going to push people away. But that is not the case at all. They're really about creating clarity on your values. And when boundaries are communicated really clearly, they actually make collaboration easier. It allows other people to understand your capacity and respect your time as well. So if saying no feels uncomfortable, the goal is not to suddenly become blunt or confrontational, right? It's not like just putting up your hand and saying, no, I'm not going to help you. So the goal is to start introducing really small moments of clarity to your values. So first and foremost, buy yourself time before responding. So if you need time just to contemplate how you want to respond to it, you can say something like, let me check my workload and get back to you. So right then and there, you're already setting a boundary. You're not saying yes. You're also not saying no, but it's going to help and signal to the other person that you have a lot on your plate and you need to make sure that you have the capacity, not capability, the capacity to say yes to this. And then the second thing you can try is to communicate your capacity honestly. This is something I learned when I was maybe 10 years into my career because I had a lot of difficulty setting boundaries. I thought all I was doing was to say yes to everyone who came up to me with different projects, collaborations, whatever it may be. Like, there just ended up being so many things on my plate and so many things to deliver on. I remember staying in the office once so late until like midnight, and my leader was still upset at me because part of what I was delivering as a project that she was really passionate about just didn't get delivered up to my 100% because my attention was so sparse. So what I learned is to find a way to say yes. So it doesn't actually mean that you will say yes to everything. So what that actually sounds like is, yes, I love to help you, but if I helped you, this other priority needs to get shifted by X days. I would love to help, but with X, Y, and Z going on right now, I might not be able to take this on. When do you actually need this by? So you're still being really reasonable about what you have to deliver on and when you would need to push it out to. And there might be a situation where your manager or collaborator might come back and say, you know what? Let's revisit this for next week. Or you might have a boss who will be like, how long is it going to take for you to deliver on X, Y, and Z, anyways? And then that's when you need to self advocate. That's when you need to actually say, based on X, Y, and Z and what I have already been delivering, if you want that quality of work to continue, that's the dedication in time. You've never complained about my speed of work before, so I like to understand what the concern is. And when you're upfront about your expectations like that, your leader might actually just take a step back to say, you know what? I didn't know how much was on your plate, or I didn't understand the process to doing that. So it's really a way for you to clarifying your value. So remember that setting boundaries is about your value. So the value in this case is the quality of your work, the quality of the relationships that you have with others, and what you've already promised. So these two shifts will help you maintain your professionalism while still protecting your energy and your values. So if speaking up or setting boundaries at work feels difficult for you, I created something that can help. It is a free guide called 7 Scripts for Leadership Presence. Inside the guide, you will find really simple phrases that you can use to speak up in meetings, share your perspective, and to set boundaries without sounding confrontational. So these scripts are especially helpful if you tend to think more deeply and you're not the first to put up your hand in a meeting. So these are really just nice short nudges that will get you started. So you can download that guide using the link below. Just remember this. You don't need to be a meanie to set boundaries. All you need is language to start to shift your priorities and your promises to other people. And that way you can protect your capacity, you can manage your boundaries, and other people are actually going to understand your value more. So if you find speaking up at work something difficult, I've also linked a playlist that I recently put together on how to speak up in meetings. I'll see you in the next video.